So please unmute yourself.
यस यस गुड मॉर्निंग. सॉरी, थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है शुरू में ये इसमें शेयर करने में. ठीक है. नाउ वी आर स्टार्टिंग द आवर टॉपिक्स. This is this is also very small topic, but we will try to complete, and thereafter we will have some discussion about this all these points. Whatever relevant points are there, you can ask any question, and we will try to solve the all problems. Okay. So it is for third block, and yes, third part in third paper, third part. Yes, unit three. Indian legislation related to population and development. The International Conference on Population and Development at Cairo brought about the paradigm shift in the way population is conceptualized. This involved going beyond maternal health and family planning to include the broader framework of reproductive health and rights. How has India fared 161 with the paradigm shift? Is this about the population control by other means? Is it about social roots and its effect on population policy? There is a need to have an informed debate on these issues of population and to bring it to the notice of policymakers at various levels like central and state legislatures and local governments, panchayats and municipal bodies. The changing international perspectives was reflected in our national policies and programs up to the middle of 70s. But during the emergency, the family planning received a setback in India due to the rigid implementation of target-based approach. However, post-Cairo summit, it became clear that population was no longer about numbers, figures, and statistics, but about people and their quality of life. It was also agreed that no force, no coercion, no incentives, or dis- disincentives were required. Coercion infringes upon human right and inhabits human developments. The ICPD program of action, POM program of action, placed individuals at the center of development with a focus on building pillars of human rights, gender equity, and equality. India's commitment to ICPD principles, the recommendations of POA program of actions was affirmed when India, a signatory to the Cairo Declaration, released its national population policy in 2000. In this unit, we will be studying about the legal framework of these things. Okay. What was the national population policy? The new national population policy of 2000 announced by the government on 1st February began with a statement that the overriding objective of economic and social development is to improve the quality of lives that people lead, to enhance their well being, and to provide them with opportunities and choice to become productive assets in society. In 1952, India was the first country in the world to launch a national program emphasizing family planning to the extent necessary for reducing birth rate to stabilize the population at a level consistent with the requirement of national economy. After 1952, sharp declines in death rates were, however, not accompanied by a similar drop in birth rate. The National Health Policy 1983 stated that replacement level of local of total fertility rate total fertility rate should be achieved by the year 2000. By 2000, population of India had risen to 1 billion 100 crores. That was 16% of world's population, living on 2.4% of the globe's land area. If current trend continue, India would overtake China in 2045 to become the most populous country in the world. While global population has increased threefold during this century from 2 billion to 6 billion, the population of India has increased nearly 5 times from 238 millions, means 23 crores, to 1 billion in the same period. India's current annual increase in population of 15.5 million is large enough to neutralize effort to conserve the resources, endorsement, and environment. Just a second. NPP in tandem with ICPD did not stress on TFR and CPR, contraceptive prevalence rate. Rather, the focus became broader and holistic and different in nature. The NPP is gender sensitive and incorporates a holistic approach to health and education need of women, adolescent, and the girl child. It states that stabilizing population is not merely a question of making reproductive health services accessible and affordable, but also increasing the coverage and outreach of primary and secondary education, extending basic amenities like sanitation, safe drinking water, and housing, empowering women with enhanced access of education and employment. So, what were the outcomes of NPP National Population Program 2000? The first was redress the unmet need for basic reproductive and child health services, supplies, and infrastructure. Make school education up to age 14 free and compulsory, and reduce dropouts at primary and secondary school levels to below 20% for both boys and girls. Next is reduce infant mortality rate to below 30%, 30 per thousand lives birth. Reduce maternal mortality ratio to below 100 per 1 lakh lives birth. Achieve universal immunization of child against all vaccine preventable disease. Promote delayed marriage for girls not earlier than age 18 and preferably after 20 years of age. Achieve 80% institutional deliveries and 100% deliveries by trained persons. Achieve universal access to information, means counseling, and serving for fertility regularization and contraception with a wide basket of choices. Achieve 100% registration of birth, death, marriage, and pregnancy. Contain the spread of acquired immune deficiency syndrome and promote greater integration between the management of reproductive tract infection and sexual transmission infections, prevent and control communicable disease, integrate Indian syndrome of medicine in the provision of reproductive and child health services, and in reaching out to households. Promote vigorously and small family norms to achieve replacement level of TFR. Bring about convergence in implementation of related social sector programs so that family welfare become a people centered program. The four core themes that drive the NPP National Population Program are addressing unmet needs, decentralization, and convergence in implementation with all other relevant social sectors. Commitment from the collaboration with the NGOs sectors, PPP, public private partnership, and to augment the pool of diverse healthcare providers and mainstream the Indian system of medicines. So then National Rural Health Mission was established. The National Rural Health Mission is a national effort at ensuring effective health care, especially to the poor and vulnerable sections of society, was launched on 12th April 2005 for a period of 7 years, means for 2005 to 2012 throughout the country with a special focus on 18 states, that is Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Jammu and Kashmir, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Madhya Pradesh, Nagaland, Odisha, Rajasthan, Sikkim, Tripura, Uttarakhand, and Uttar Pradesh. The NRHM covers all the villages through village based accredited social health activist, that is called ASHA, who would act as a link between the health center and the villagers. One ASHA will be raised from every village or cluster of villages. The ASHA would be trained to advise villagers about sanitation, hygiene, contraception, and immunization to provide primary medical care for diarrhea, minor injuries, and fevers, and to escort patients to medical centers. They would also deliver directly observed treatment short course for tuberculosis and oral rehydration, distributes folic acid tablets and chloric, chloroquine to patient and alert, and alert authorities to unusual outbreak. Although these ASA would be honorary volunteers, there is a provision to provide them with performance based compensation for undertaking a specific health or other social sector programs with measurable outputs, thus promoting employment for these volunteers. The next scheme for women came Janani Suraksha Yojana. Janani Suraksha Yojana is another important component under NRHM. Janani Suraksha Yojana is centrally sponsored scheme to benefit pregnant women and certified poor families. The government has introduced the Janani Suraksha Yojana to provide compensation, medical care during pregnancy, childbirth, and postnatal care, and thereby endeavor to improve the level of institutional deliveries in low performing states to reduce maternal mortality. National Rural Health Missions shall be able to effectively improve the availability of and access to quality health care by people, especially for those residing in rural areas, the poor, especially women and children. Few other initiatives taken under NRHM are increasing public expenditure on health, reducing regional imbalance in health infrastructure, pooling resources, integration of organizational structures, optimization of health manpower, decentralization and district management of health programs, community participation and ownership of assets, induction of management and financial personnel into district health system, and last, operationalization community health center into functional hospitals meeting Indian public health standard in each block of the country. Now, further India has initiated in this schemes. So human beings are at the center of concern for sustainable development. They are entitled to health and productive life in harmony with nature as Rio Declaration principle in 1992. It was significant moment in the history of India as well as when it became a signatory to the Cairo Declaration, which brought about huge shift in our approach towards addressing a rise concern over population explosion, a term used in the mid 1960s to signify an unprecedented growth in population due to rapid fall in the death rate. It was a movement of alarming concern as India, being a young democracy, was grappling with many challenges like poverty, unemployment, epidemics, and illiteracy. These apprehensives was that population explosion would only augment these problems manifolds. So it was not until 1990 that paradigm shift came with the International Conference on Population and Development. The critic the target based approach and suggested the significance of gender equality and reproductive rights and choice of women to address issues related to population growth. The most important contribution of this forum was a change in the nomenclature and association of population with demography and birth control to a richer concept of sustainable development based on individual at the center of development, strengthened by pillar of human rights, gender equity, and equality. Now, population policies in India. Population policies formulated to address the unmet need for contraceptions, health care, infrastructure, and health personnel, and to provide integrated services delivery for basic reproductive and child health care. The main objective is to achieve a suitable population at level consistent with the requirement of sustainable economic growth, social development, and environmental protection. So, in different 5 years plan, the healthcare was having different aims. We'll see in different 5 years plan how they, what were the target and how they achieved. So, first 5 years plan, India is the first country in the world to begin a population control program in 1952. It emphasized the use of natural device for family planning. Second 5 years plan. Work was done in the direction of education and research, and clinical approach was encouraged. Third 5 years plan. In 1965, the sterilization technique for both men and women was adopted under this plan. The technique of copper T was also adopted. An independent department called the Family Planning Department was set up. Fourth 5 years plan, all kind of birth control methods, conventional and modern, were encouraged. Fifth 5 year plan, under this plan, the national population policy was announced on 16th April 1976. In this policy, the minimum age for marriage determined by the Sarda Act 1929 was increased. It increased the age for boys from 18 to 21 years and for girls from 14 to 18 years. The number of MPs and MLAs was fixed till the year 2001 on the basis of census 1971. Under this plan, forced sterilization was permitted, which was later on given up. In 1977, the Janata Party government changed the name of Family Planning Department to Family Welfare Department. Then in the sixth, seventh, and eighth plan, efforts were done to control population by determining long-term demographic aims. Ninth 5 year plan. In 1993, the government has established an expert group under the chairmanship of Mr. M.S. Swaminathan for formulating national population policy. Though this group has had prepared the draft of new population policy in 1994, it was reviewed in 1999 by the Family Welfare Department and was passed by Parliament in 2000. The central government formulated the new national population policy in February 2000, which one we have already discussed. This policy was having three main objects. First object, temporary objective. These the easy supply of birth control devices was included in it, beside the development of health protection framework and recruitment of health workers were also made a part of it. The middle term objective was, under it, the total fertility rate had to bring down to the replacement level of 2.1 by 2010. Long term objective was, under it, the objective of population stabilization by 2045 is to be achieved. The population has to be stabilized at that level, which must harmonious from the point of view of economic and social development and environmental protection. It has been announced in the new population policy to keep composition of the Lok Sabha unchanged by 2026 so that the states could cooperate without any fear. Under current provision, the number of MPs in different states by 2001 has been determined on the basis of census 1971. It was to be changed in 2001 on the basis of new census report 2001, but it might be harmful to those states which had taken part in the population control program with great favor. Those states which had not laid proper attention on population control could get more share in the Lok Sabha, resulting in wrong effect on population control program. So the Lok Sabha could not have more than 553 elected seats till 2026, and the number of Lok Sabha seats of each state would remain the same as it is at present. While announcing this new policy, Central Health Minister said that the people living below poverty line would be rewarded properly if they would marry after 21 years, adopt the standard of two children, and undergo sterilization after two children. So again, the following major objectives has been set in the National Population Policy till 2010. The total fertility rate to be reduced to 2.1. The high class birth control services had to be made available publicly so that the standard of two children could be adopted. The infant mortality rate had to be reduced to 30 per thousand. The mother mortality rate had also to be reduced to below 100 per 1 lakh. The late marriage of girls had to be encouraged. A high level 100 members National Population Commission has been set up under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister on 11th May 2000 to supervise and analyze the implementation of this new policy. Okay. Now, situation in India. Overpopulation causes effect and how to control it. See, according to Indian census carried out in 2011, the population of India was exactly 1 crore 21 lakhs. I mean, this one, approximately 1 crore 21 lakhs, which means India has crossed the 1 billion mark. This is the second most populous country of the world after China. And the various studies have projected that India will be world's number one populous country, surpassing China by 2025. In, a, in spite of the fact that the population policies, family planning, and welfare programs undertaken by the government of India have led to a continuous decrease in the fertility rate. Yet the actual stabilization of population can take place only by 2050. Why India needs population control bill? The two main reasons are the birth rate is still higher than the death rate. We have been successful in declining the death rates, but the same cannot be said for the birth rate. The fertility rate, due to the population policies and other measures, has been falling, but even then, it is much higher compared to other countries. The above causes are interrelated to the various social issues in our countries, which are leading to overpopulation. What are the situations? The early marriage and universal marriage system. Even though legally the marriageable age of a girl is 18 years, the concept of early marriage still prevails, and getting married at a young age prolongs the child birthing rate. Also, in India, marriage is a scared obligation and a universal practice where almost every woman is married at the reproductive age itself. Next is poverty and illiteracy. Another factor for the rapid growth of population is poverty. Improvised families have this notion that more of the number of members in the family, more will be the number to earn income. Some feels that more children are needed to look after them in their old age. Also, hunger can be cause of death of their children, and hence the need for more children is strange but true. Indian still lags behind the use of contraceptives and birth control methods. Many of them are not willing to discuss or are totally unaware of them. Illiteracy is thus another cause of overpopulation. Next was old age cultural norms. Sons are the bread earners of the families in India. This old age thought put considerable pressure on the parents to produce children until a male child is born. More the better. Illegal migration. Last but not the least, we cannot ignore the fact that illegal migration is continuously taking place from Bangladesh, Nepal, leading to increased population density. Now, effects of overpopulations, unemployment. Generating unemployment for huge population in a country like India is very difficult. The number of illiterate persons increases every year. The unemployment rate is thus showing an increasing trend. Manpower utilization. The number of jobless people is on the rise in India due to economic depression and slow business development and expansion activities. Pressure on infrastructures. Development of infrastructure facilities is unfortunately not keeping pace with the growth of population. The result is lack of transportation, communication, housing, education, healthcare, etc. There has been an increase in the number of slums, overcrowded houses, traffic congestions, etc. Resource utilizations. Land area, water resources, forests are overexploited. These, there is also a scarcity of resources, decreased production, and increased cost. Food production and distribution have not been able to catch up with the increasing population, and hence the cost of production have increased. Inflation is the major consequence of overpopulation. Next reason, inequitable income distribution. In the face of increasing population, there is an unequal distribution of income and inequalities within the country widen. Then, what are the steps taken for control of this overpopulation? The government of India, politician, policymakers should initiate a bold population policy so that economic growth of the country can keep pace with the demand of pace with the demand of growing population. Major steps which have been already implemented but still need to be emphasized: more controlled population, increasing the welfare and status of women and girls, spread of education, increasing awareness for the use of contraceptives and family planning methods, sex education, encouraging male sterilization, and spacing birth, free distribution of contraceptives and condoms among the poor, encouraging female improvement, encouraging female empowerment, more healthcare centers for the poor, to name a few, can play a major role in controlling the population. India's strength in global world in various fields cannot be ignored, whether in science and technology, medicine and healthcare, business and industry, military communication, entertainment, literature, and many more. Experts are hopeful that by increasing public awareness and enlisting strict population control norms by this government will definitely lead the way for country's economic prosperity and control of the population. Now, population growth and economic development of a country. When population grows faster than GNP, the standard of living of people does not improve. In fact, rapid population growth has been obstructing economic growth in developing countries like India, where since 1951 population has been growing at relatively high rate. Table is given one below. According to table, we present the population growth rate in India. It will be seen that since 1951, population has growing about 2% or more. In other developing countries such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, rate of population has been growing at about 2% or more. Both are same. In other developing countries, has been greater than 2%. However, it may be noted that overpopulation and rapid the population rate is especially an Asian problem. The developing countries of Latin America and Africa do not face this population explosion problem. But the developing countries like India, population growth has to be checked if gains of development are not nullified by it. It is worthwhile to note here that it is the only China which has brought population growth rate quite well under control by adopting one child per family norms. This is the chart given for population growth in India. A democratic country like India cannot adopt coercive method to control population, but to show how rapid population growth retards economic development, it is necessary to mention that by economic development, we mean not only increase in national income, gross national income or per capita income, but also reduction in unemployment as a result of the growth of employment opportunities and reduction in poverty and inequalities of income. Since economic growth depends on rate of savings and investments and productivity of labor, we will discuss the this impact on this population. ठीक है? It is important to note here that in present day industrialized development countries, in spite of according to Thomas Robert Malthus view, to the contrary, population growth was beneficial for economic growth rather than retarding it. It has been argued that by some that population growth leads to increase in labor force, which is an essential productive resources. By increasing the productive resource population, growth will help in producing more output. As some has remarked, population growth brings in more hands to work for production and therefore contributes to economic growth. Secondly, it has been pointed out that the increase in population leads to the increase in demand for goods. Thus, growing population means growing market for goods is enlarged. They can be produced on large scale and thus economics of large scale production can be reaped. The economic history of USA and European countries shows that the population growth in them contributes greatly to the increase in their national output. But which has been which has been true of USA and European countries may not be true in case of other countries. Whether or not the growth of population countries to economic growth depends on the existing size of population, the available supplies of natural and capital resources, and the prevailing technologies. In USA, where supplies of natural and capital resources are comparatively abundant, growth or in labor force caused by increasing population rises national output. In India, where supplies of other economic resources, especially capital equipment, are relatively such, increase the in population or labor force does not lead to the employment of all due to scarcity of capital resources. Unemployed people do not add to national output. As for the argument that population growth leads to increase in demand or market for goods, it may note that the demand or market for goods increase if the real purchasing power in the hands of people increases. The mere growth of unemployed or pauper cannot be lead to a greater demand for goods or expansion in their markets. Having ruled out the beneficial effect of population growth in the context of Indian economy, we discuss below the situation growth in India retards economic development. ठीक है? Population growth and rate of saving in and investments. Economic growth requires increasing supply of capital goods. A higher rate of economic growth can be achieved by accelerating the rate of capital formation. Increasing supply of capital goods become possible only with the higher rate of investment and higher role of investment. In turn, is possible if the rate of saving is high. Now, increasing in population by adding to the number of people whose requirements of feeding and clothing have to be met with, which tend to rise consumption and therefore lower both saving and investment, according to Cole and Hoover in their famous work on growth model, explained that saving rate was reduced by population growth because of increase in burden of depend- dependency. So this is the situation. Next one is inversible resources and rising per capita income. While on one hand, on the one land, rapid growth in population reduces invertible resources for accelerating capital formation. It raises the requirements for investment to achieve a given target increase in per capita income. Suppose population of a country A is increasing at 1% per annum and that of a country B at 3% per annum. Given the capital output ratio is 4 is to 1, then country A would have to invest 4% of the current income to maintain its per capita income, while country B would have to invest 12% of its current income even to maintain its per capita income. Okay, next is lower growth of per capita income. Like a thief in night, population growth robs us of most of the gains in national income made from higher investments. Rapid population growth nullifies our investment effort to rise a living standard of our people. In other words, a high rate of increasing the population swallows up a large part of increase in national income so that per capita income or living standard of the people do not rise much. This is precisely what has happened during the planning era in India. Thus, while the aggregate national income of India went up by 3.6% per annum in first plan period and 4.1% per annum in second plan period. Per capita income rose by only 1.58% and in second plan 2% in second respectively. The average annual growth in national increase income and per capita income in various 5-year plans we have given, it is given in below. It will be seen from the table that the annual growth per capita income has been much less than the annual growth rate in the national income. It is the population growing at 2% per annum or more during the planning period that has caused per capita income to rise much less than the increase achieved in national income. It is the chart given according to planning 11th plan. How much increase in percent income and this one comes. ठीक है. However, since 1991, population growth rate has been less than 2%. It was 1.9% between 1991 to 2001 and 1.6% between 2001 to 2011 on one hand, and growth rate of the national income was much higher on the other. It is shown in the table. Therefore, the growth rate of per capita income has been relatively higher. Per capita income at 2004-5 price grew at the rate of 4.6% in the eighth plan period 1992 to 97, 3.5% in ninth plan period 97 to 2002, and 5.9% in the 10th plan period and 6.3% in the 11th plan period. This higher per capita income growth rate since 1991 has tended to raise the standard living of people higher than before. So these are the things. Now next is population growth and marketed supplies surplus of food grains. Another way in which the growth in population is impending economic development is its effect on marketed surplus of food grains. The marketed surplus of food grains is a prerequisite for expansion in non-agricultural employment and outputs. When country grows and accelerates its pace with industrialization, it requires food grains to feed the workers who are employed in industries. If enough supplies of food grains are not forthcoming, this act as an important constraints on the industrial development. This prevents the living of a living standard of the people to rise rapidly. Now, marketed surplus of food grains is the difference between the output of food grains by the agricultural population and their consumption of them. Thus, the formula is marketed surplus of food grains equal to O minus C, where O is stand for the output of food grains and C is the consumption of food grains. ठीक Population growth and unproductive investments. In this, according to Cole and Hoover's, focused on the adverse effect of population growth on resources, a variable for product, productive investments. According to them, rapid population growth forces the country to make non productive investments, that is, to invest in duplicating certain social welfare facilities such as construction of park, houses, social building, and sanitation work itself. To the extent of government has to increase its expenses on duplicating these social welfare facilities, investment resources for productive type of capital such as machines for industries, irrigation and fertilizers for agriculture, crucial basic goods such as steel, coal, electricity generation, etc. would be reduced. Thus, rapid population growth obstruct economic development by reducing the growth of productive capital. And next is population growth and unemployment. Economic development requires that employment should increase adequately so that unemployment should decrease. Explosive growth in population has caused serious unemployment and underemployment problem in India. Due to explosive growth in population in India, labor forces has been increasing rapidly since 1951. In recent years, labor force, which was estimated at 309 million in 1983, went to 333 millions in 1988 to 382 millions in 1994 and further increased 406 million in 1999 to 2000. As a result of this explosive increase in labor force, demographic pressure on the economy has increased, resulting in increase in backlog of unemployment and underemployment at the beginning of each successive 5 years plan. In view of this, much of our investment effort are directed at absorbing and growing labor forces in productive employment. Our ability to rise productivity of labor is severely constrained. Since productive progress in modern organization industrial sector is highly capital intensive, much of the growing labor forces cannot be employed them. As a result, demographic pressure on land and agriculture increases, resulting in severe drop in the next zone area per capita. In agriculture, self-employment is predominant and the joint family system prevails under which both households income and work are shared among the family members. Therefore, in the absence of employment opportunity outside agriculture, much of the additional labor forces is forced to remain in agriculture and allied activities. Agriculture performs the role of residual absorber. They share work in agriculture with other family members, no matter how low the productivity per person becomes. Thus, with the fall in the net sown area per person in increased population pressure, disguised unemployment emerges in agriculture. Disguised unemployment means more workers seem to be employed in it, but quite a large number of additional workers do not add to agricultural output. That is, marginal productivity of worker in agriculture is zero or nearly zero. Since population growth reduces saving and investable resources, it is very difficult to withdraw any significant number of workers from agriculture so as to equal them with the required capital to provide them productive employment outside agriculture. To a certain extent, lack of capital may be made by harder worker by worker in the country like India. But such method of adjustment is not easy to achieve in India. This is because in the modern time, man can produce little with bare hands. To provide them productive employment, workers need to be equipped with enough capital goods. Even employment generation in agriculture, apart from high yielding inputs such as fertilizers, HYV, seeds, and pesticides as required, irrigation works, and important capital needed for extension of double cropping, which is highly employment generating way in agriculture. Due to lack of investable resources caused partly by population growth, it has not been possible to extend irrigation facilities to the currently known irrigation potential. ठीक है, population growth and poverty. Last but not least, the important consequence of rapid population growth that it has made very difficult to make a significant dent into the problem of mass poverty prevailing in the country. This is clear from the fact that as large as about 18 million people over the and above 1 billion population estimated on March 1st, 2001 are being added to our population every year as per 2001 census. This gives rise to huge problem of properly feeding and clothing them. Further, as has been explained in the details of the above, and ठीक है, हाँ, as a large increase in population and consequence huge investment in labor forces lower our capacity to make productive investment and thereby the increase in productivity of labor to ensure eradication of poverty. Professor K. Sundaram rightly writes the size of increment to population is itself of some consequence. Thus, thus is because the resources requirement of feeding and clothing, even at the current low levels, are such that the incremental population itself constrains the ability of the economy to rise the living standard of the existing population. And last one is demographic changes in India and population dividend. India passing through the phase unprecedented demographic changes. These demographic changes are likely to contribute a substantially increased labor forces in the country. The census projection report shows that the population proportion of working age population between 15 to 59 years is likely to increase from approximately 5.8% in 2001 to more than 58% in 2001 to 64% by 2021. In absolute number, there is approximately 63.5 million new entrants to the working age group between 2011 and 2016. Further, it is important to note that the bulk of this increase is likely to take place in the relatively younger age group of 20 to 35 years. Such a trend would make India one of the youngest nations in the world. In 2020, the average Indian will be only 29 years old. The comparable figures for China and US are 37 years. For West Europe is 45 years. For Japan, it is 48 years. This higher proportion of young labor forces in India has great production potential and has therefore been called demographic dividend. This demographic dividend provides India large productive opportunities for rapid economic growth. However, this also poses a great challenge. Its benefit will be realized only if our population is healthy, educated, and appropriately skilled. Therefore, great focus on human and inclusive development in India is necessary to best utilize the demographic dividend. Now we can go for this. Okay, now this chapter is in the study material. This much is given, and extra I have no mark. It is not necessary. Hello, sir. Hello.
Uh, yeah,
Sir, we have covered almost all topics in our this study material. Now you tell me what to cover. I mean, if any discussion or something is there, then we can go for that. Otherwise, again, I will repeat. I'm having some other notes also that I can use, or we can discuss something related to these points and all.
almost whole the syllabus has been covered. The block one, two, three. We have covered the drain, rich in most of the things